Let me say this slowly and very clearly, because this story is not light, it is not random, and it definitely did not fall out of the sky. The internet is on fire right now after Ray J released footage that he claims exposes something deeply uncomfortable involving Jay-Z, Beyoncé, and Brandy. What people are reacting to is not just the footage itself, but the energy around it, the body language, the silence, the avoidance, and the way certain moments suddenly make sense in hindsight. And now social media is doing what it always does best, digging up old whispers, half-buried rumors, and uncomfortable coincidences, with many people openly questioning whether Jay-Z could allegedly be the real father of Brandy's daughter. That allegation alone shook timelines, but the reactions that followed shook them even harder. Because here is the thing that nobody can ignore anymore. Beyoncé and Brandy's behavior, especially in recent public moments, is making people feel like there is something deeper under the surface. This did not start yesterday. This did not start with one clip. For years, online forums, fan pages, and blind items have quietly speculated about Jay-Z and Brandy. Most people brushed it off as nonsense, until Ray J decided to speak out and Beyoncé's backstage behavior suddenly looked very different under a microscope. What looked like coincidence before now feels intentional, and that is what turned suspicion into obsession. Everything truly exploded when Ray J publicly called out Jay-Z and Beyoncé for allegedly refusing to acknowledge or even interact with Brandy during the "The Boy Is Mine" tour. Not avoiding fans. Not avoiding strangers. Avoiding Brandy specifically. Ray J made it clear that this was not accidental, and almost immediately, fans resurfaced a backstage clip that sent shockwaves through social media. In the video, Beyoncé appears to leave the area the moment Brandy enters, moving so quickly that it looks like she vanished into thin air. Seconds later, Brandy walks straight past, seemingly unaware that Beyoncé had just been there at all. That single moment lit a match. People began asking uncomfortable questions. Why would Beyoncé avoid being in the same frame as Brandy? Why would two industry legends who share so much history never appear together publicly? Why does the tension feel so loud even when nobody is speaking? Social media users flooded comment sections accusing something of being hidden, something unresolved, something that does not sit right behind the scenes. And just when the conversation was already boiling, Ray J decided to turn the heat all the way up. Ray J went online and aired out what many people felt but were afraid to say. He spoke calmly, but his words were sharp enough to shake the entire timeline. He referenced a moment where he said that Brandy and the family did not co-sign something important for him, adding that he would probably get in trouble for even saying it out loud. That one comment sent fans into detective mode. People immediately pointed out that Ray J is Brandy's brother, and they connected his words to old viral claims suggesting that Jay-Z allegedly had a long-running situation with Brandy even after marrying Beyoncé. Suddenly, people were asking whether Beyoncé's refusal to take photos with Brandy was not about professionalism at all, but about personal history. Once the algorithm picked it up, the story exploded beyond control. People began questioning everything, even Jay-Z's carefully crafted image. Some fans mocked the idea that he could allegedly have so many women interested in him, while others argued that power, influence, and money rewrite attraction entirely. But the joke stopped when Ray J allegedly leaked old footage that he claimed showed Jay-Z was not as faithful as fans believed. There was no full context. No detailed explanation. Just enough information to make people start digging aggressively into the past. To understand why this hit so hard, you have to look at the long-rumored triangle involving Jay-Z, Beyoncé, and Brandy. Many fans pretended that Jay-Z and Brandy barely crossed paths, but the internet pulled receipts that told a different story. Old clips resurfaced showing Jay-Z surprising Brandy on the set of her television show. Old interviews suddenly felt awkward in hindsight. A viral TikTok from months ago claimed that Jay-Z and Brandy allegedly had an on and off situation for years, hidden behind industry silence and mutual protection. One fan comment summed it up perfectly, saying that the tension between Beyoncé and Brandy did not come from nowhere, but from unresolved history involving Jay-Z long before Beyoncé entered the picture. Even if none of these claims are proven, the internet had already built the storyline in its mind. So when Ray J started speaking, people did not need convincing. They felt like pieces they had ignored for years suddenly snapped together, and Beyoncé's visible discomfort only made the suspicion louder. When Beyoncé attended the tour, fans noticed something that made the situation impossible to ignore. She took photos with Monica, Solange, Kelly Rowland, Patti LaBelle, and even background dancers. Smiles everywhere. Warm energy. Public support. But when fans searched for photos with Brandy, there were none. Not a single one. Monica even joked on stage, and fans immediately questioned why Beyoncé could be photographed with everyone except the actual co-headliner of the tour. Then a tweet went viral accusing Beyoncé of being fake toward Brandy, and suddenly the conversation took another dark turn. People began bringing up Brandy's past, comparing industry treatment, and even dragging Aaliyah into the discussion. Another viral comment referenced long-standing industry tensions that many fans already knew about but preferred not to revisit. At that point, this was no longer just gossip. It became a full-scale deep dive into power, silence, betrayal, and the uncomfortable truth that sometimes the loudest secrets are hidden in plain sight. Then another voice entered the chaos, and this one cut deep. Someone online said, almost shaking with frustration, that the way Beyoncé and her team allegedly treated Brandy felt shady, cold, and honestly sad to watch. People began resurfacing old stories, including claims that Brandy once advised Kelly Rowland years ago to step out from under Jay-Z and Beyoncé's shadow and build her own independent legacy while she was still part of that group. That detail alone made fans pause, because it painted Beyoncé not as untouchable royalty, but as someone who had always made calculated moves behind the scenes. So when Beyoncé allegedly avoided Brandy publicly, people did not see it as random anymore. They saw it as confirmation. That avoidance poured fuel on already dangerous assumptions. With Ray J actively speaking and hinting, people started assuming the worst almost immediately. And Ray J knew exactly what he was doing. He did not release a long exposé. He did not explain anything carefully. Instead, he teased a short, now deleted clip, heavily implying that Jay-Z had not been loyal and claiming that he had been sitting on receipts for years. That silence, paired with implication, was louder than any explanation could have been. The internet treated that footage like a smoking gun. Some viewers claimed it showed Jay-Z and Brandy at the same event as Beyoncé, standing too close, looking too comfortable. Others swore the chemistry alone told the whole story. But the truth is, nobody had full context. And when context is missing, the internet fills the gaps with imagination, bias, and emotion. That is exactly how the most extreme theory gained traction, the claim that Jay-Z was allegedly the real father of Brandy's daughter, Sarai. And once that rumor took off, logic stopped mattering. Online culture does not run on facts, it runs on feelings. People began dragging out every possible detail they could find, stacking assumptions on top of speculation. Fans started presenting what they called clues, daring others to ignore them. One of the most talked about moments involved Brandy's daughter once mentioning that Beyoncé and Kelly were the biggest stars who visited her home. To many people, that comment alone suggested familiarity that went far beyond industry politeness. If Beyoncé was around the family that much, fans assumed she already knew whatever truth existed, whether it was good or devastating. Then another old moment resurfaced. Brandy once commented on a Beyoncé fan page, saying something along the lines of that being her outfit and daring Beyoncé to come take a photo with her, joking that it would go viral. People immediately questioned whether Brandy actually posted that comment or if her account had been compromised. But the internet did not wait for answers. They used it as proof that tension had existed for years, long before Ray J ever spoke publicly. Fans also began twisting Beyoncé's past interviews. When Beyoncé once named Tina Turner and Michael Jackson as her vocal influences, people online framed it as intentional shade toward Brandy, who has long been called the vocal Bible. Whether that interpretation was fair or not did not matter. The narrative had already been built. Even moments that were meant to show peace were reinterpreted. When Brandy publicly complimented Beyoncé, calling her crazy in love during her tour, people said the praise felt forced, rehearsed, and uncomfortable instead of genuine. Then the conversation took a darker turn when Jay-Z's own words resurfaced. A quote began circulating where he spoke about having a beautiful and understanding wife and admitted that they had done the hard work of going to therapy. When he first said it, people applauded him. They called it growth. They called it accountability. They called it maturity. But years later, that same quote was no longer being used as redemption. It was being used as evidence. Fans pointed out that therapy does not happen without damage. That kind of work does not happen over a single mistake. In their minds, Jay-Z had already admitted that infidelity existed, and now people were questioning how deep it really went. The narrative shifted completely. What was once seen as healing suddenly felt like a quiet confession hiding in plain sight. And in the court of public opinion, once that shift happens, there is no going back. Jay-Z publicly admitted that he stepped outside his marriage, not as a single isolated mistake, but as part of a broader pattern that required real repair behind closed doors. While he and Beyoncé chose to rebuild and present a united front, that admission never disappeared. It simply went quiet. And the moment Ray J reopened old wounds, that quiet turned into gasoline. Fans immediately began connecting dots, revisiting timelines that were once dismissed, ignored, or politely buried. People started asking uncomfortable questions out loud. If Jay-Z admitted to cheating on Beyoncé, then why could Brandy not be one of the women involved? There was no proof behind the question, but in the digital age, curiosity alone is enough to ignite chaos. The internet does not need certainty. It feeds on possibility. And Ray J understood exactly how powerful that possibility would be when he brought Jay-Z's past behavior back into the spotlight at this exact moment. In celebrity culture, timing is never accidental. What someone says matters, but when they say it can change everything. Ray J did not randomly decide to reference Jay-Z's infidelity. He chose to speak when emotions were already high, when fans were already side-eyeing old narratives, and when his own name was circulating for reasons that had nothing to do with music or nostalgia. That timing made people stop and think. Was this about exposing truth, or was this about distraction? Was this a brother protecting his sister, or a man trying to pull attention away from his own unraveling public image? One thing has always been clear. Ray J has been fiercely protective of Brandy for their entire careers. From the beginning, he positioned himself as more than her younger brother. He became her shield. The one willing to be loud while she stayed silent. The one willing to look reckless so she could remain composed. Fans admired that loyalty for years, even when his approach felt impulsive or chaotic. But recently, something shifted. His energy no longer felt playful or confident. It felt heavy, volatile, uncontrolled. This did not feel like the Ray J people were used to seeing. This felt raw, emotional, and deeply personal. Almost desperate. At the same time, Ray J's own life has been publicly falling apart. His controversies have been loud, uncomfortable, and impossible to ignore. There was the gun-related allegation that shocked even longtime supporters and raised serious questions about his state of mind. Then came the Twitch ban, cutting off a platform he relied on not just for money, but for validation and direct access to an audience. For someone who thrives on attention and control of the narrative, that loss hit hard. And then there was the infamous jail livestream story, where Ray J openly described being locked up and warned viewers never to go to jail. It was not funny. It was unsettling. Beneath the bravado, fans could hear fear, regret, and instability bleeding through his words. Even people who defended Ray J for years started feeling uneasy. The jokes stopped landing. The confidence felt forced. The energy felt off. And that is when a new theory began spreading online. Some fans believe Ray J is lashing out because he is overwhelmed by his own scandals. They think he is tired of being mocked, tired of being reduced to a punchline, and desperate to reclaim some sense of moral authority. In that context, defending Brandy becomes more than sibling loyalty. It becomes strategy. A way to redirect attention. A way to say, look over there instead of looking at me. But this situation is more complicated, because Brandy represents the complete opposite of Ray J's public image. She is known for grace, privacy, and restraint. She does not engage in industry drama. She does not air out mess for attention. When her name gets dragged into controversy, it feels invasive and unfair. Fans who grew up with her career feel protective of her in the same way Ray J does. That is why this situation struck such a nerve. The idea that she could be pulled into a scandal she never consented to feels wrong to many people. And when Ray J taps into that outrage, he instantly gains support, even from people who are otherwise exhausted by his behavior. There is also a deeper layer to Ray J's anger that fans cannot ignore. For years, he has existed close to Hollywood power, but never fully embraced by it. Close enough to see how the machine works, but never protected by it. The Carters, on the other hand, represent the highest level of industry royalty. Polished. Controlled. Untouchable. To some viewers, Ray J's comments feel like frustration finally boiling over. Like he is tired of watching certain people be shielded while others are publicly destroyed. Some fans call it the Carter treatment, where controversies are managed, silence becomes strategy, and accountability is reframed as growth. In that sense, Ray J's outburst is not just about Jay-Z or Brandy. It is about power, hierarchy, and resentment. It is about who gets forgiven and who gets laughed at. Who gets therapy and redemption arcs, and who gets public meltdowns with no safety net. Ray J may be messy, but he is not unaware. He understands exactly how the industry works. And when you feel like you are always on the losing end of that system, awareness can turn into bitterness very quickly. Still, there is a growing group of critics who say none of this excuses dragging old rumors back into the spotlight, especially when there is no concrete proof and when the people involved have clearly moved forward with their lives. They argue that Ray J's approach does not protect Brandy at all. In fact, they believe it risks reopening wounds she deliberately chose to heal in private. If his intention was truly to defend his sister, they say there were quieter, more dignified ways to do it. Ways that did not involve viral chaos, insinuations, and public speculation. To them, the spectacle says far more about Ray J's emotional state than it does about any hidden truth. And that is the uncomfortable reality sitting at the center of this entire situation. Two things can be true at the same time. Ray J can genuinely love his sister and want to protect her, while also acting out of frustration, insecurity, and disorder in his own life. His recent behavior does not look strategic or measured. It looks like someone who feels cornered, unheard, and spiraling. And when people reach that point, they often grab whatever leverage they think they have, even if it means reopening old stories that should have been left buried. As fans continue to debate, one thing becomes increasingly clear. This situation is not really about proving whether something happened or did not happen years ago. It is about perception, timing, and emotional fallout. It is about how unresolved pain collides with personal scandals and industry power dynamics in full public view. Many people believe that until Ray J finds real stability within himself, this cycle will continue. Explosive statements followed by backlash. Sympathy followed by silence. Then another eruption. Over and over again. What lingers is not the rumor itself, but the sadness of watching someone unravel in real time, using the past as a weapon because the present feels too heavy to confront. And that is why one question refuses to disappear. Does Ray J know something the public does not? That question hangs in the air every time this story resurfaces, unresolved and uncomfortable. Especially when people remember that emotional clip of Ray J that refuses to fade from memory. The one where his voice cracks, his eyes fill, and he is asked whether Brandy stopped speaking to him because he ruined the family brand. That moment did not feel scripted. It did not feel performative. It felt raw in a way that made people uneasy. Because when someone breaks like that on camera, it usually means there is a much deeper wound underneath. It did not sound like a man embarrassed by fame. It sounded like someone isolated within his own family, someone painfully aware that he is on thin ice and has been for a long time. That is why Ray J's comments hit as hard as they did. When someone already labeled the black sheep starts talking, people either dismiss it as bitterness or start wondering if this is what happens when the pressure finally becomes unbearable. His behavior does not come across as a calculated public relations move. It feels more like someone snapping. Someone tired of carrying weight alone. Someone tired of being framed as the problem while everyone else maintains a pristine image. Strip away the celebrity names and the gossip packaging, and what remains looks like a deeply strained family dynamic that has been cracking quietly for years. And just when it seemed like the conversation could not get messier, an alleged insider reignited an old chapter most fans believed was long buried. They brought back the long-rumored claim that Brandy and Jay-Z allegedly had a years-long fling, one that supposedly unfolded right in front of everyone, and one that Beyoncé allegedly never saw coming. To be clear, this rumor has existed for years without solid proof. But the timing of its return is what made people pause. This was not about truth. It was about narrative. About why this rumor was being revived now and what role it played in the story people were trying to construct. The insider went even further, reminding the public of the Jane Doe lawsuit that falsely accused Jay-Z and later collapsed in court, prompting him to file a defamation suit. That case served as a stark reminder of how dangerous false allegations can be, especially in an era where public opinion often moves faster than facts. But instead of shutting speculation down, it oddly reopened another door.